Coming in at number 10, I have Max Verstappen. Look, I considered not putting any driving sport athletes in this list, but I think he's such a level above anyone in F1 and or NASCAR. He has 7 world championships. He wins about 30% of his races, and what is there, 50 people racing? I mean, winning 30% is pretty impressive, especially with how razor thin the margin of error is. Really, any mistake and you are done for. I think F1, same thing with NASCAR, but both of those sports you have to be perfect for such a long period of time, and I think it's pretty impressive. Now, in terms of how I'm ranking these athletes, I think number one, how competitive is the sport? So is it a sport that only rich people can get into? Is it a sport that you have to be a certain height to get into? Is it a sport where you have to be to a certain frame? You have to be muscular. Is it a sport where you have to be short, etc.? F1 is pretty difficult. Obviously, no one is doing F1 in high school, and that lowers it. But it does pay quite a bit, so that kind of balances it out for me. When thinking about this, the ideal, most competitive sports are sports that every country plays, so you get the full 8 billion people on Earth. Sports that don't have a height or size requirement, so you get, once again, everybody. And sports you don't need money to play. F1 doesn't really have a size requirement. You can't be super tall to fit into the car, but unless you're a giant, you can compete. But, like I'd mentioned, the amount of people that are doing F1, it's pretty small. So for that reason, I can't have Max Verstappen any higher. Now, number 8, I missed number 9. Number 9 is going to be Wayne Gretzky. He's averaging almost a goal per game. 4 championships, a silver in the World Cup, 4 Canadian Cups. Now, I am going to dock him a little bit for not playing in the modern era. I'm talking about competition a lot. The competition in any sport is not going to be as high 30 years ago as it is today. So I'm going to knock him for that. In terms of hockey, he is clearly the best hockey player of all time. And I don't think it's even debatable. But I don't have much to say on him. I'm not even old enough to have watched him live. I think watching athletes live definitely makes a difference in terms of how you view them. You probably have a better grasp of how much better they were. I can look at the stats and see it, but it's definitely different if you get to watch it live. At number 8, I've got Usain Bolt, the 3 fastest 100-meter times of all time, and as well as he is the fastest at 9.58. Now, it is only 0.2 seconds faster than the next fastest guy, and a lot of people are like, that's not that much. And when you watch them race, it doesn't look like that much, but at this level, especially with it being a shorter race, 100 meters is a little bit longer than a football field, nobody's going to be 8 steps ahead. I mean, that's just not how this works. So, I think as well, sprinting, there's not really... Now, it is kind of crazy that he is that tall, and he always starts off pretty slow in his races. Most of the fast guys are 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot. So just kind of average height for males. And they're muscular, but not jacked, I would say. They're lean, but nothing crazy. So I think it is impressive that he was able to do it at kind of a taller frame. And it's a competitive sport. Look, running is... Don't need a high IQ for it. That factors into everybody. You don't need to be super tall or super short. Pretty much anybody can run. You don't need to have great genetics for building muscle. Really, anybody can do it. Now, you do have to have fast-twitch muscle fibers, and a lot of them, but it's like, that's not a super small pool. Anybody in any country can compete. The fact that his records have still not been broken. A lot of these sports, the guys hold all the records, and then they retire, and then immediately the records get broken. He still is the fastest man to ever run. So, pretty impressive. That's why I have him at number 8. At number 7, I've got Tiger Woods. 18 World Championships, and he's competed in 44. So, it's kind of same thing with Max Verstappen. These guys are winning like a third of their the best athletes in the world in their respective sport compete, and they are winning a third of the time with 30-plus people. I mean, and with Tiger Woods, kind of same deal with Verstappen. Probably not to the same extent because you have more area to make up, but If you hit something into the bunkers or, whatever, something crazy, one mistake can tank you. So probably not to the same extent as F1, but still. I mean, he's U.S. Junior, U.S. Amateur, U.S. Open. He's done it 3 times. No one has won more PGA Tour events than Tiger Woods. And he consecutive cuts. Between 1998 and 2005, Woods made the cut in 142 consecutive events, breaking the previous record of 113. Now, to be honest, I'm not the biggest golf guy. I don't really know that much about it, but it is a very competitive sport in really any developed nation. You're probably not going to be seeing a ton of golf in Africa or in the slums of Brazil, but if you've got a decent amount of money, there is really no athletic requirement to golf, and it's pretty lucrative as well. So I think that, the money aspect makes it less competitive because you're not going to have inner city kids or poor kids in the favelas of Brazil. I mean, you are factoring out some people, but if you have, you're upper middle class or upper class, you pretty much, you don't need to be tall, you don't need to be short, you don't need to really have anything. I mean, you've got old guys golfing that are decent, so not great, but they're still decent. So I think Tiger Woods is at 7. Now at number 6, we've got Floyd Mayweather, 50-0, really 49-0. I don't really count that McGregor fight. 27 knockouts. Now, some people might view that as not good. The knockout percentage is 54. I would view it as actually a positive because a lot of these guys, they will, number one, it could go either way because knocking guys out could mean you have low competition, but it could also mean you're just that good. I think the fact that he's both knocking people out and then winning decisive victories means he's a well-rounded fighter. A lot of guys knock a lot of people out and then they face someone good and then they get gassed. Floyd has beaten everyone, and he's also a normal-sized guy. He's a little small, but he's fighting in a weight class where globally probably has the most competition, 145 pounds. He's 5'7", $145. If you're talking globally, now most people watching this probably in America, but the average male is, 5'7", 5'8", globally. He is, and once those guys get lean and cut, they're probably 140, 150 pounds. He is competing in the most heavily, what word am I looking for here? There's a lot of athletes. There's a lot of guys globally that are going to be competing in that weight class, and he wiped everyone out pretty decisively. So I think he's got to be there. Now, I'm going to get, before we get into the top 5, considerations. These are guys and one woman that I considered, but for various reasons, which I'll get into, they did not make the list. First one is going to be John Jones. He has failed a bunch of drug tests. He also has avoided, he's an MMA fighter, and he's essentially undefeated. He's one loss by disqualification, but essentially undefeated. And he's been pretty dominant, moving up to the heavyweight division and getting 2 wins. The thing is, with the drug use, as well as avoiding top contenders, you could make the argument that he's the greatest athlete of all time. And I would have him at 11, to be clear, so he was right outside the top 10. I just think with the failed drug test, multiple failed drug tests, multiple top opponents ducked, I think it's tough to have him in the top 10. Pele, soccer, I considered him once again. I think that athletes, for you to be an athlete in my top 10 and not to play in the modern era, or modern era-ish, they don't have to currently be active, but if you retired a while ago, the issue for me, just, it's like the competition wasn't as high as it is now, so the modern era guys are going to beat you out. Michael Phelps. Now, a lot of people probably were expecting him to be in the top 5. Look, I really don't respect swimming. I don't respect it. I don't think it's a real sport. I view it the same as esports. He also is a drug user, so I'm not a big fan of that. And part of the thing, it's like, we talk about these swimmers, and we're like, oh my gosh, all these medals. He swam and changed his arm movement and somehow wins all these medals. This would be like if Usain Bolt tied his arms behind his back and won a race, and then ran backwards. It's like, dude, he's doing the same thing, and somehow he gets to win 4 medals to do the same thing. It's kind of ridiculous. We got a cricket player, Donald Branham. He is by far the best cricket player of all time. I, full disclosure, don't know that much about cricket, so you could argue just based on the stats, he is dominant in a very now in America we don't play cricket, but cricket's a massive sport, one of the biggest in the world, and it is very popular. A lot of kids grow up dreaming of being the best cricket player. They make a lot of money, and I just don't know enough about the sport. I mean, statistically, it looks like he's excellent. I've never watched cricket, so I can't really comment on it. Simone Biles, great gymnast. I'm docking her. I'm not doxing her. I am docking her for the fact that gymnastics has such a distinct advantage for people who are very small. So she's 4'7", I believe, or 4'8", and when you look at women, it's such a small level of competition when it comes to that. Like there's not many women under 4'10" that are in decent shape. So yeah, I don't have much to say about that one. Now on to the top 5. Let's get into it. And listen, these top 5, they're close. You can argue them. I think the top 5 are definitive. You cannot convince me anyone that is not inside the top 5 should be outside of it, and vice versa. You could maybe sway me on the order. I got Ronaldo at number 5. He has an insane win percentage. He has won 437 games. He has drawn 105 and lost 84. I mean, winning or losing 80 and change percent of your games is pretty crazy. 495 goals, 96 assists. He is pretty much contributing a goal per game between either scoring or assisting, which is absurd, especially playing at a high level for that amount of years. It's one thing to do that over a season. To do that over almost 20 seasons, it is pretty crazy. I can't have him any higher because he doesn't. I value World Cups a lot. I think the international stage is pretty important. That's where you get more parity. A lot of these guys, they'll go to these super teams, and it's like, yeah, you can score because the attention's not on you. When you represent your country and you're the guy, 2018, his World Cup was pretty solid. Other than that, he hasn't been dominant. He hasn't made it to the finals once. So, still a great athlete, though, no doubt. Now, on to number 4. Got LeBron James. Still currently playing, along with Ronaldo and one other guy on the list. Probably the greatest sport accomplishment of all time, coming down 3-1 against the greatest team in NBA history, the Warriors. The 73-win Warriors came down 3-1, 2 road games he won. Phenomenal performance. I mean, it was absurd. 3 championships on 3 different teams. He is possibly the most versatile athlete of all time. He can shoot the 3-ball. He can post up. He can drive and get fouls. He can play perimeter defense. He can play point guard. He can play 1 through 4. Probably not athletic enough to play center anymore, but I mean, look, he's absurd. Now, one thing I will say that kind of why he's not above MJ, MJ's next, is LeBron, when he goes to these teams, he always takes away future draft capital. Anytime he goes to a team, he's like, yeah, you're going to trade future first-round picks. You're going to trade young players. I want to build the perfect team around myself. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that makes him a bad player. I just think part of his success is manufactured because every team he gets to, he's like, yeah, we're going to trade X, Y, Z, and I want to win now. And then when that team can't compete because they have no draft picks and they've got a bunch of old players who are overpaid, he's like, okay, I'm on a new team now. So for that reason, I've got to have MJ. I've got MJ at 3, 6 rings. He averaged 30 points per game. I mean, look, the NBA wasn't as competitive as it was now. One on one, I think LeBron beats MJ, but I don't think that's really what this list is about. I think it's about how dominant you were for your era, for the competition. And there was never a discussion when Michael Jordan played who was the best player. It was MJ, 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 MJ all those years. Yeah, LeBron, it was at the beginning, it was Kobe, then it was KD, then it was Steph, then it was Giannis, and now it's no longer him. But there always seemed to be that kind of real discussion. Not that it was fully warranted. I think LeBron is probably the best player in the majority of those years, but it's like there's a discussion. You got Joker as well in there. So Michael Jordan, when he played, there was no question. There was no question if they're down by 1 point with 10 seconds. LeBron usually keeps it and scores, but when MJ had the ball, he was shooting. When LeBron gets it, he usually is shooting. And that might make him a better player, the fact that he's willing to pass it. But when you're going to be the greatest athlete of all time, you take the ball and you score. It's pretty simple. Now at number 2, we have got Tom Brady. I think, now, I will say this. The fact that football is not a global sport, it's just the United States and Canada essentially, but really just the United States, that does hurt Tom Brady, and that's why he's not number 1. But the fact that he was so dominant, 7 rings, he made the Super Bowl in over 50% of his seasons. I mean, it's just absurd. Like, as a football fan, you got 25 starters, you've got all these coaches, you've got the elements, you've got the referees, all these different factors. And the fact that he was able to win a Super Bowl in 33% of his seasons, I mean, that on different teams, you've got good defenses, you've got good offenses, all these different factors. Multiple eras, 3 decades, and he's able to be that good, to lead every statistical category at quarterback, the longevity. I mean, it really is like just watching Tom Brady play. It doesn't make sense, especially what he's able to do at an old age. When he's playing, something has to go crazy for him not to win. It doesn't make sense what he's able to do with all these teams. And then he leaves, and Bill Belichick can't rebuild the Patriots, and then he goes to the Buccaneers, a borderline fringe playoff team, and then they win a Super Bowl in the first year. I mean, you could argue he's the greatest athlete of all time, but it's not as global as soccer, and I've got Messi at number 1 of all time. Look, he he has a goal contribution every 73 minutes of play. That means that he is scoring. He has a literal goal, just about 1 per game, but he's assisting or scoring 1.2 times per game. That's absolutely absurd. And the reason why I have him over Ronaldo and the other athletes is in soccer, I love World Cup success. Look, with the NBA guys, it doesn't matter because the United States is the best, and it's like, okay, cool, you beat bums. World Cup, everybody's decent. There are better teams than others, but for the most part, everybody has some guys. And Messi, he won the World Cup in 2022 and then was a runner-up as well in previous years. So because of the goals, him and Ronaldo are pretty similar in that. Because of longevity, multiple different leagues he's been good in, 2 World Cups he's been dominant in. I've got to put Messi at number 1.